yourself, so say your name, where you're from, what year in school you are, and maybe a couple of important activities you might be taking part in.
Hi everyone, my name is Zora Williams. I'm from Rockville, Maryland, around the DC area. I'm a freshman this year, so I just came here. And I'm involved with the Black Student Union. I haven't really picked a major yet, so really couldn't answer that question completely yet. But yeah, that's pretty much what I am right now.
Hello everybody, my name is John Lancaster Finley. I'm a senior majoring in political science and minoring in urban studies. Within those two fields, my primary concentration in my major is in American national government and politics, and my secondary concentration within my major is in political theory. And then in my minor, my concentration is in urban society and social change. I'm from America's finest city, San Diego, California. And yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, so again, I know that we have more questions. So again, if you guys want to fire away, if not, we have a couple of questions that we can also ask our panelists as well.
I just wanted to ask the gentleman that is from America's finest city, why didn't he go to UC San Diego or University of San Diego?
Oh, because this is America's finest university. I think so. Both of my parents went to Stanford, and my father came to Stanford on football scholarship, and my mother actually originally went to Harvard and then transferred here to be with my father. They were both class of 1978. And Stanford had long been in my family because when my dad was on the football team, so we were always coming up and going to football games. I remember Stanford was in the Rose Bowl in 2000, and we went to the Rose Bowl when I was a little kid back then, and I was just really hyped on Stanford football. And then there was a long drought where Stanford football was not any good, and all of a sudden we got good again, so that's really exciting. But neither of my older brothers, I have two older brothers, neither of whom actually even wanted to go to Stanford at all. My oldest brother went to art school, he went to California College of the Arts in Oakland. And then my other brother actually went to USC Film School, which did really give my father a heart attack when he decided to go to USC. It really pained my family to have to sign checks to USC. It's okay, because my brother, it's the best film school in the world down there, so he really enjoyed his time. But for me, Stanford, it really wasn't even a discussion. Once I got in, it was like, okay, well, you have to go. Because my parents had long been talking about, well, there's all these other families who are legacies at Stanford, right? There's all these other kind of rich white families who all 7 of their kids get into Stanford and have, generations and generations of, oh, all 8 of my kids went to Stanford and they all have their kids going to Stanford. And my parents started to get really frustrated with that. And I remember my father saying, I'm literally not going to the university anymore if they don't let you in. So we will no longer be supportive alumni. But it all ended up working out. So I love it here.
That did not go into consideration. He got it on his own merits.
I applied early action to Stanford, actually, and I got deferred. So I was deferred to the regular applicant pool. And I remember in that period of time, I was like, well, forget Stanford, I don't even want to go anywhere. But when I ended up actually getting in, that was one of the best days of my life.
So can we extend that? So Zora, can you kind of talk a little bit about how you made your way from the DC area to Stanford?
Yeah, so both my parents went to school in actually Minnesota, but they're both educators. Everyone in my family is a teacher, and so college has always been on the radar. And I never really thought about coming out west because there's so many colleges out east. I was just like, I might as well stay. I can get far away and get what I want. And actually, my stepmom, she actually got her PhD here, and then when she became part of my family, she started talking about Stanford and what it was about, and I was like, ooh, that's even farther. What do you think about that? So then I actually started to consider it, and I came up to visit. And what really struck me was I was really different than all the colleges I ever visited, because I visited a lot of colleges before, but on the east, so the layout's different, it's not this sunny all the time, the colors of the buildings are different, everything's different, there's people sleeping on the ground. I was like, what's happening? So then I talked to the students, and I was like, oh, you guys are normal, I like this. And I thought it would be a good place to consider, one, because what I liked most about it was the diversity of the student body. That's something I didn't really find in some of the colleges out east that I was looking at, that there would be really no one, no one's the same here. That's kind of what I wanted. I wanted a place where Because really for me, a lot of my learning happens outside the classroom when I'm talking to people in my room, in between my homework while I'm procrastinating. So I was like, that's kind of what I wanted. So when I came here, I met some students I was having those type of conversations that I wanted to have already, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply. And I really was discouraged. I was discouraging myself from applying at first because of the admissions rate, and I was like, well, I just feel like it's gonna hurt my soul when I'm not accepted and all the things. But the main reason I decided to put it on my list was because of the students that I met here when I visited, and because of the encouragement from my family to kind of reach, like looking for a reach school. So when I applied, it worked out. I applied regular decision. Everyone was like, why are you applying regular? Like, no one's gonna get in regular. And I was like, no, like my application's not gonna be ready until January 4th. So I applied January 4th. It's true. Because I had to retake the SAT a couple times. I had to make sure my essays are right, and I wasn't ready until January 4th. So that's when I applied, and it worked out. March 31st, I remember my leg was broken. I was on a bus, and like I got my acceptance, and I decided to come because it gave me all the things that I need from all the other schools that I applied to. It gave me a really diverse and vibrant Black community that has a voice on campus, a diverse student body, and then all these different academic options that I could try out for myself without kind of being limited. Like I could change my major if I wanted to. I could, I had 2 years to decide to declare my major. Those are some of the things that I consider when figuring out how to apply and how to actually come.
Other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
So young lady, what qualifications do you think you brought to the table that allowed you to be in that?
I think what I tried to really stress in my application was that I'm someone who's really curious to learn about the people around me. Like, I remember talking about wanting to be able to learn about things I didn't know, wanting to be able to engage with cultures and like situations that made me uncomfortable. And so that's kind of what I was looking for in a college experience. So that's what I tried to stress. I think it's more my curiosity that I think. Maybe that's a qualification you could say. I remember I was here during Apple Weekend, and someone asked me, they're like, what did you do to get in? And I was like, that's a great question. I have no idea. What I did during the application was I was trying to be my genuine true self. I thought to myself, what am I trying to do during college? What am I trying to get out of college? What am I going to be doing on a daily basis? How am I going to be contributing to this? So I think the most thing that I contribute to any type of situation I am is my voice. I like to talk a lot. So I try to start dialogues with people about things that I don't know about, things that they might not know about. I think that's the best way that I'm contributing to this campus right now is talking a lot, but meaningful talk. I'm trying to create discussions. I'm trying to talk to my friends about things that they might not know about. I had a really good discussion with my best friend. Like, he's Muslim, and then he saw my Bible on my bookshelf, and he was like, "Oh, what's the Bible? Like, can I see it?" And I didn't realize, like, "Oh, you never seen a Bible before? That's so cool." And like, we got into a really good discussion about like what Jesus meant to Muslims and like what he thought about Christians and things. And I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool." So I think that's the best skill I think that I've been bringing to this campus.
What made you run for, student body president? Like, how did you win over if there's only like 10% African Americans? How did you win over the student body to become the president?
Yeah, so Brandon and I, because we're actually the first 2 African Americans to hold this position at the same time together. And we met on freshman council freshman year. So we have a frosh council where you're one for this position as a representative of your dorm. And I lived in Ujima, which is the ethnic theme dorm on campus. Brandon didn't actually live in Uj. Brandon lived in an all frosh dorm where he was one of maybe 4 black people in that dorm. And Brandon was actually always coming over to Uj and trying to hang out because he needed some blackness, right? That's how he describes it. And so we kind of became friends. We were taking a class, we took a constitutional law thinking matters class, which is the kind of intro class for freshmen. And we kind of bonded instantly. That class was taught by Pam Carlin, who's a really strong civil rights attorney. And she's been on a lot of short lists to be named to the Supreme Court. And that was a really interesting experience, and me and Brandon started to talk about, things going on in the country, things going on in the world, and we kind of bonded intellectually and as friends from freshman year. We started talking about running for student body president and vice president together. And we started talking about that from freshman year. And so we kind of built up, and it was a 4-year-long campaign process. Really. I became freshman class president that year. Brandon ran for sophomore class president, our sophomore year, and he became sophomore class president. I served 2 years on the undergraduate senate, and so it was a lot of just going places and campaigning and becoming the two really most knowledgeable and well-known people in student government, period, regardless of what our race was. Becoming the most knowledgeable and the ones who wanted it more than anybody else. And by the time we got to senior year, I think everybody was kind of expecting us to run together. And it was no surprise to anybody that me and Brandon were here running for this. But we faced so much actual literal racism when we were running. Our campaign, even though it had been building up and everybody knew this was going to happen over the past 3 years, right? We got there and all of a sudden there was so much racial strife occurring on the campus. And this was something, we had a lot of racial issues on campus last academic year when I think the Black Lives Matter movement spilled out through all college campuses. And I was involved in protests. We marched through the streets of Palo Alto. There was 68 Stanford students who were arrested protesting on the San Mateo Bridge. And these issues all really permeated through the campus. And Brandon and I were kind of at the center of it because here we were running for student body president and vice president while being two unapologetic black men, right? And being like real black about it, and people hate that. And that we got so much attention because there's an anonymous social media forum called Yik Yak, where students basically go on and say whatever they want to say because it's anonymous. So people were just saying whatever racist thing they could about us for a solid period of like 3 months. Which that was difficult to have to, I don't have the app personally because I don't think I'd be able to be sane if I was looking at that every day. But people would like send me, they're like, wow, did you see what that said about you on Yik Yak? And I'm like, well, actually Yik Yak is the most cowardly thing I can think of to go on and say something anonymously about somebody who's doing something in public, right? And you're gonna be anonymous like, wow, I can't believe they're doing that, or this, they would say all sorts of terrible things. But I think what motivated us more than anything was our desire to leave Stanford in better condition than we found it. You know, we're incredibly blessed to have gotten the opportunity to come here. And Brandon wouldn't mind me sharing this because he actually wishes he could be here. He had another event he had to go to. But when he applied to Stanford, he was actually de-accepted from Stanford because his grades started to slip at the end of senior year. And Stanford asked him to take a gap year and, you know, kind of prove himself and then come back. And so both of us have this idea that it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we got to be at this institution at all. So while we're here, we want to make the best of it and take what we can, what our talents, our skills may be, and share them with everybody to kind of do something special while we're here, because it very easily could have gone the other way, where neither of us would have been at Stanford, where we may have been somewhere else doing who knows what. And so given the opportunity that we have, we wanted to make a difference, and I think that has motivated us even throughout our term also.
All right. Yes, sir.
So how did you become president and vice president? What, did you guys actually done that? Any discussion about that?
How we decided the breakup or the makeup of those roles. I think it's kind of always, because I did more student government work during my time, and he also, our junior year, he went abroad. So he went and studied at Stanford and Washington, and then he also went to the Cape Town study abroad program. And I was here on campus doing student government work still and doing a lot of reform work within student government. So it became more so like his outside perspective that complemented my insider knowledge, and it just the work that we had done really matched those specific roles, but we approach it as a team anyway. We rarely do anything separate. So the title is not as important as it is the two of us doing this.
Are you gonna run for president?
Yes, ma'am.
I kind of want to hear about their high school life. A lot of us have children that are on their way to wanting to be, going to college. And so, classes you chose, extracurricular things that you did, friends you got rid of, that kind of thing.
I can speak to that. So my high school life was really, really hectic. I was a part of the IB program, which is in my school, stands for International Baccalaureate. It's kind of like AP, but a little bit different. So I decided to do that. But, so that took a lot of my time. And then on top of that, I was in debate, and I played violin, I was on the newspaper, and I also started a club in my school called Figure Out College with Success. So I could help other people go with me through the college process so I wouldn't be alone. So I did a lot of different things. So I was always really busy, and I didn't sleep that much. That's true, I didn't sleep that much. I'd sleep maybe 2 to 4 hours a night. But it's changed now. It's getting better. But and so I guess a typical day would be like I'd wake up at 6:30, get to class at 7:25, 7 classes a day. Then I ran cross country until 5:30. And then if I had a debate that day, or if I had an orchestra concert that day, I had to stay at school late for that. Then go home, then start your homework, get all the homework done. I eat in between there sometimes too also. And then go to sleep and try to do it again. And like it got to a point where like my mom would be like, you need to go to sleep at midnight, I want to take your computer. And I was like, Mom, like, do you want my homework done or like do you want to sleep? Like, and so she was like, oh, we should do both. So it kind of got a little bit hectic. So for me, a lot of high school was a lot of work, but I did go out a lot. I went out with my friends a lot. I organized events in my school. What did we do? We did so much. I did a lot. It wasn't all just work, but work was a big part of it because I knew what I wanted to do after college. I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew the type of college I wanted to go to, and I knew what it took to get there. So I decided to make that commitment out of my school day, out of my life for 4 years to do that. So, and you know, you're saying like getting rid of friends. I think for me, it was more like figuring out people who support the lifestyle I was doing. So a lot of my friends, we all took different routes actually. So not all my friends went to college, not all my friends went to college, not all my friends did everything they needed to do to get to college, even if they did want to go to college, but I still was able to hang out with them because they knew like I was going to do this with them because I'm going to do my homework or like things like that. So I think what really helped me was just sticking to my schedule, being committed to what I wanted to do, and understanding my own goals, and then having friends that supported that.
I think to speak to that really quickly, the best teacher I ever had in 7th grade told all of us, there's no reason to hang out with people who are dumber than you. And she said that anytime you're choosing your friends and choosing what to do on the weekend, even hang out with people who are smarter than you because you can constantly be learning. And I think I took that advice to heart and kept that all high school. It's not an issue anymore because everybody at Stanford is infinitely smarter than I am, so I do not have to worry about that anymore. But I think back in high school, a lot of that was deciding, like, am I learning something, not even just classroom learning, right, but am I gaining something moving forward in life by being around certain types of people? In high school, you know, the admissions officers probably know more about high school than me than I do, but back then, my grades were actually not the best, particularly because I am very, very bad at math. Like, I can't add, straight up. And so I took honors pre-calculus my junior year and got a C, and like struggled really, really. I think the most miserable time of my life was every single night sitting there having to struggle through honors pre-calculus because I can't add. And I'm sitting there like, I don't even know what all these things are. I can't talk to you about proofs that I did because like I just struggled through it and got to the C level. But then I really spent all my time and energy in what I was really good at, which is in history and in government and in writing. And I really focused a lot of my energy there. And in what I was passionate about, I made sure I was like the best at that and the most knowledgeable at what I was good at. I also invested most of my time in extracurricular activities. I played music since I was a little kid, since I was 5 years old. And so I was in band, I did a little bit of orchestra, like I just loved playing music, so whatever chances I got to play music, particularly jazz, I just did that. And then I was also involved with the Boy Scouts, so I'm an Eagle Scout, and was doing that most of my time, and my Eagle Scout project took up a lot of my time junior and senior year. And then also, I didn't even have a laptop until I was a senior, when the Lynx Incorporated, they have an Achiever program, and being in that Achiever program, they gave me a laptop. And I think back, I look at my little sister, who's a freshman in high school now, she does everything on her laptop, and I think back, wow, I didn't even have a laptop, what did I do? How did I get all the work done? But I think that high school is actually infinitely more difficult than getting to than college is now. Because I think back, I was like, wow, I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning, going to school for 12 hours a day, right? And then coming home and having to hand write out my homework because I didn't have a laptop. And then whenever I had to use a laptop, I had to go to my father, who's an attorney, and be like, can I borrow your laptop, Dad? And he's like, well, yeah, but once I get all this casework done, so maybe at 11:30 you can borrow my laptop. I'm like, okay, Dad. And he's like, you better get into Stanford also at the same time. And so I think it was really difficult. And I chose to take the classes after going to events like this and hearing admissions officers talk about the things. I remember the line very clearly when people ask, is it better to get an A in a regular class or a C in an AP class? And they always answer, it's better to get an A in the AP class. And I'm like, well, that's not helpful, but let me try to do that, I guess. And so that's how I tried to take my classes. My senior year, I think I really hit a level of like intellectual vitality that was unprecedented. And it wasn't because I was trying to get into Stanford. It was because I just decided to let go kind of pursuing specific scripts of academics that people had wanted me to pursue. I was in AP Physics, and I was like, I'm not going to do well here. There is no reason for me to be sitting in AP Physics. And I decided that week 2, and I blew up my entire schedule and decided to take AP European History. I took a political science course at the local community college, and I took AP Art History. And those three, and AP English Literature. And so those 4 things, like really delving into the Western canon of thought and political thought and history, like that gave me a pre-college experience almost. Because I was drawing connections over history between all these fields of literature, art, and history, and political movements and social change. And I was able to start actually thinking about the world through my academic classes. And I think that really added to the application that I wrote because I was starting to think bigger. And I wasn't just thinking about what classes can I take to get in somewhere. I was thinking about what can I take to not only enjoy myself and build my intellectual capacity, but also to think deeply about the problems that are facing the country and the world, and then to write about those. Because Stanford's application asks you to write about diversity, right? It asks you to write about some pretty heavy topics that if you are a senior in high school and haven't really thought about these things, it can be pretty daunting. But then it comes naturally once you start to engage yourself in that intellectual rigor. And I think that's that senior year choice to drop like the physics and math stuff that I was not good at and focus on strengthening my mind to what I was good at. I think that's what helped me get in.
I have no question, just a simple comment. This is my 5th year in attendance. I want to salute you two brothers for your articulation, the way you orchestrated running the program. This is exactly what we've been waiting for in the launch. We asked the young lady the last 2 years, where are the brothers on this campus to have an impact, to bring out the information? And to the 2 students, consider this. It's not where you're coming from, but where you're going. Reach back and continue to elevate those behind you. I rest.
Absolutely.
Thank you, President. Appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
For parents, are you going to have the opportunity to share some of what you have been through with the students? Because a lot of what you have said is great for parents, but it would be just so much more impactful for you to share some of this with the students.
You did also do the panel before the closing ceremony tonight.
I was like, I can't figure out.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So I too would like to thank the panelists. Very good information. And maybe in closing, John, you can tell us how you and Brandon are going to lead this better than when you arrived as you exit as a senior.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we've been working on, we kind of sat down and thought about how can we actually help to improve Stanford's curriculum itself. One of the things that we decided was very, very important in understanding how students have been interacting with each other on this campus and how the community dynamics have played out is that understanding identity, your own identity, and being able to relate to other people is probably the most crucial life skill that you will ever have. We live in a global world. We live in a global society where everybody is connected more closely than ever before, right? Through the internet, through finances, everything is connected. And being able to interact with people who are different is probably the defining skill for any job that you'll need to get, including these jobs that require a lot of math, right? A lot of physics. You want to be an engineer, you still have to be able to interact with people of different backgrounds because that's what's going to go down in the workplace. And so we started thinking about how Stanford prepares its students to understand our own identities and to engage with the identities of others. And we identified areas where we think that curriculum could be stronger. There's currently an engaging diversity requirement that is a requirement. It's part of the ways of thinking, ways of doing learning outcome model. And so we thought that that particular requirement, we saw first of all that most students were not taking that in their first 2 years. Most students were delaying to take that as they were graduating. Which shows us, okay, people are just using that to check off their graduation. They're not actually engaging with diversity in these classes. That requirement also applied to a broad level or a broad category of classes. So you could take what's called structured liberal education, right, which is really, really focused on delving into Western canon and Western literature, and that fulfills your engaging diversity requirement. Well, are you really engaging with diversity if you're, say, from England and are reading English literature, and now you've met the engaging diversity requirement? What we really need to be doing is actually preparing people to interact with the global world, right? And so we came up with the idea of strengthening that requirement by changing it to diversity in the major. Stanford currently has a writing in the major requirement because Stanford has decided that writing is important no matter what your field of study is. We also believe that diversity is important no matter what your field of study. And there are specific diversity elements and issues that you could be studying within your field. If you are a computer science major, you could be studying women in tech and women in the workplace, right? And how these different disruptive changes in the tech industry have affected diversity issues. Or if you're studying medicine, you should be studying different elements of global public health. Right? You should be studying different ideas of medicine, different philosophies of health, and how you can relate to different kinds of people. And so we're presenting these types of ideas, and that has been really the defining feature of our term, I think, is presenting those ideas to faculty and trying to get movement from the faculty, the academic senate on those issues. And then also our top priority has been on sexual violence prevention. That has been a huge, enormous issue for colleges across the country as it relates to student life. And for us, it's about simply expecting and demanding that Stanford do more to address this issue. And Stanford has been really, really good about trying to stop this problem, but there's always more that can be done. It's something that needs to be ended. It's something that should not be continuing. And so we've been looking at elements of how can we create education within residences where people get the opportunity to understand each other, understand each other's identities. Because this is not just a problem where, you know, the party scene at Stanford is pretty dead to begin with. It's a fun university, but I wouldn't describe it as a party school, right? And so then it's not the issue of people partying and getting too reckless and then sexual violence problems just happen because we're too reckless. That's not really it. What it is people have a lack of understanding. People have a lack of understanding of their own identity, how my masculinity is constructed by society, and how that can actually put me into certain misogynistic patterns where I believe that I'm entitled to a woman's body, or I believe that I'm entitled to somebody else's body as I pursue this college experience, right? And then we all get stressed in our classes and we're like, oh, I'm gonna go out and drink and party. And if I already have that preconceived mindset that my masculinity entitles me to somebody else's body, I am then preconditioned to carry out these violent acts and these violent behaviors. And so understanding that we can start from ground zero of how identity is constructed, and we can do that in the residence when freshmen first get here and they can be talking to each other about how we construct our identity, how things that have happened to us in our lives or how things that have impacted us really shape this. Then we can start to see some progress on preventing this issue. It's not just about the preventative measures that we can take on sexual assault specifically, but even more so teaching people how do we respect ourselves so that we may understand and greater respect others. And that's been the message that we wanted to constantly preach and push to everybody we can, and hopefully get Stanford to become a national leader in addressing this issue, and also an innovator in how to educate on this issue. We really should be the pioneers on how to educate on sexual violence prevention. And it's disappointing to us that nobody has yet kind of made a breakthrough on how we fix this problem. We have so many research breakthroughs here, that's the one where we need a research breakthrough. And so we've been trying to push that.
Again, give a big round of applause to our student panel.